What is up? Welcome back to another video. We're going to be talking about film photography. It is an expensive hobby. We all know that. There's really no two ways around that, but might have a couple tips and tricks to help you out. We'll be going over today the Romping Bronco Guide to Affordable Film Photography. I shouldn't have written in with a pen because it's going to be kind of hard to see. But we've got 5 basic steps. So we have 1, camera, 2, film, 3, lens, 4, developing, and 5, storage. And we are just about a step above chicken scratch. Camera, what camera are you going to use? Film, where are you going to get the film? How much is it going to cost? Lens, what lenses are out there? What can you use? Developing, are you going to develop it yourself? Will you send it to a lab? What's that going to look like? And storage. Preface all of these discussions, these beginner film talks, if you want to get into film photography, all these videos with the idea that this is a bad Sharpie. We'll start with that thought. This is the most important thing. Keep your negative. So we'll kind of start at the end here because I just want to add extra emphasis to the importance of this. That's the whole reason that you want to shoot on film, to shoot on a negative. Getting rid of them defeats the purpose. You're just shooting digital with extra steps and more cost involved. Keep your negatives, get a binder, get negative sleeves, and store your negatives, catalog them so you know where everything's at. That is the utmost important. It's the most affordable. Binders are like $1. The storage sleeves are like $20 for like a pack of 25 or something like that. And it is worth every penny. Keep your negatives. I guess we'll go back to the industrial width one. Let's move into these categories here. What do we need to do before any of this? Okay, the most important thing outside of storing your negatives is your budget. How much can you spend? How much are you hoping to spend? How much are you hoping to save? What does that look like on a monthly basis? Because ultimately what you can spend will determine the affordability. This is just kind of a blanket of thought processes and thought experiments that can hopefully help guide you on your journey. You have to take the general principles we'll talk about today and apply that to your specific situation, because I don't want to get too far in the weeds on any one of these categories. So the most important thing, determine your budget. What can you spend? What do you feel comfortable spending? Is it $20 a month? Is it $50 a month? Is it $200 a month? Any answer is the right answer so long as it works for you. I'm not out here saying you have to spend at least $10K a month on film. Please don't do that. You don't have to even spend $100 a month on film. Some months you might spend a bit more. Some months you might spend a bit less. Just whatever it is you are comfortable with, that's all that really matters. So once you've established your budget, start over here with camera. Do you have a camera? If you don't have a camera, does anyone you know have a camera? Aunt, uncle, mom, dad, just ask around. See, hey, I want to start getting into film. Have you shot film before? A lot of people have. Do you have any advice? Do you have any experience? Do you have any camera? Whatever. See if you can borrow one. See if maybe you can buy one for cheap off a neighbor. Whatever. Doesn't hurt to ask, but I would begin there. If they don't, what's the option from here? A thrift store. They have cameras sometimes. Goodwill, local thrift stores, all these things. Sometimes they have film cameras. I will say that in the last 5 years, I've had a really hard time finding affordable cameras at thrift stores and working cameras at thrift stores. So this is going to be a very expensive option. It's going to be a very time-intensive option because they don't have a regular supply, so you have to go to different thrift stores. A lot of the times you'll end up with something that either might not work very well, you don't know much about, or you're just going to spend a bunch of money on something. So I would probably say, for the time being, stay away from thrift stores. They can be fun, but if you want a camera, I would say do your research first, figure out what it is you're looking for, and then do online. There's a few different options for online. Obviously, there's eBay, there's Craigslist, there's Mercari, I would stay off of all that. Just stick with KEH, MPB, or Camera Store, depending on where you're living. I think KEH and Camera Store are great because you get a breakdown of the camera. You get an idea of what condition it's in. Will it work? Will it won't? It's tested. The prices for the most part are reasonable. They have very affordable options. Something like KEH is a good bet. and you can probably find something that's within your budget. Now, if you can't do online for whatever reason and you want to go local, depending on where you're living, camera stores are great. I will be talking about them throughout the course of this list here. I recommend going local because, one, you're supporting local businesses, which is important, but two, the most important thing is you are accessing some kind of a community. The person behind the counter might shoot film. They might have some recommendations that are more specific to you, something that they've probably spent time and money with and on. They might want to chat with you about it or like point you in a direction that's going to be better for your specific goals. Local options are good because you get that access to people, you get that conversation. However, it might be a little bit more money. So that's something to be in mind of if you want to adhere to your budget. Local options are great for that access, but you might not want to buy cameras from them. I would say go check the prices. If it's something you're comfortable spending, cool. You might find better options online. It doesn't hurt to look. It doesn't hurt to ask. That would be my recommendation. And it's kind of going to be the same conversation with film. We'll pretend that that's good. Okay, so for film, we have the same kind of options. We have store, local, and online. Now, when I say store, what I mean is like Target, Walmart, CVS Pharmacy, Walgreens, any of these like bigger stores. They might have film like Kodak Ultramax, Fuji 200. And while those films are usable, I will say that they're probably going to be a bit more expensive at those stores than other places. Quantity is going to be limited. They're not going to have a great stock of it. If you're in a pinch, you need to get film, and that's right down the street from you, that's a good choice. But for the most part, I would say it's not. Local store, it's kind of the same situation with the camera. It's great to have that resource. It's great to have that conversation, see what they have, see if they have any recommendations. It is going to be maybe a little bit more expensive than online, but again, you are supporting local business and you're also accessing that community. But not everybody lives close to a store, so for that, they're going to do the online thing. Online is great because there's a lot of sites out there that have a wide range and wide supply of different film stocks that you can experiment with and all of these things. And you can find all these stocks, look at your budget, put it all in a cart and say, okay, this will be my budget for the month. And then you can just check out and go from there. If we're talking about film at a more granular level, the film stocks I would recommend you try are pretty much the same that everyone recommends. We've got Arista, Kentmere, and Fomapan. These are going to be consistently the cheapest of the options. They're all black and white stock. And for the most part, if you're just trying to have fun, just trying to figure out what it's like to shoot film, these are going to be great choices. The good thing about Freestyle Photo and other online sites, such as Formed Film Lab, is they'll oftentimes have sales. So I would say keep a lookout on that. Sometimes they have clearance options. Sometimes the price drops heavily. Sometimes local places will have sales, but typically not on film from what I've seen, but I think it just kind of depends on where you go. If you want to shoot color, kind of a standard option, which is the Fuji 200. Now on Freestyle Photo is $849 a roll. I would say if you're going to shoot color film, you kind of want to stick to Fuji or Kodak for the time being. The experimental stuff can be fun, but that's something that you should work towards as opposed to try out with, because it's very hard to build consistency with experimental film. So stick with Fuji or Kodak. Individual rolls have lower prices, okay, which would probably fit within your budget. And if you just want to try a roll of color film, then there's nothing wrong with this. If you want to plan ahead a little bit more, you can get a pro pack of Kodak film, either Portra, Pro Image, Ektar, any of those. They're probably going to cost in that $50 to $75 or more price range, but you get 5 rolls of 35mm film, $10 to $15 a roll thereabouts. So you might be saving a little bit more money there with the pro pack, and that way you can stay within your budget in the long term. So say 1 month, maybe you get the pro pack and then you just gradually work through that for the next few months. Requires a little bit of pre-planning, but if you want to shoot color film affordably, that's probably going to be your best bet. Lenses. Most cameras you get online will come with a lens kit. Depends. If not, look at your camera, figure out what lens mount there is. I have a video going over that. If you have any questions, comment down below. Happy to help you out. My best recommendation for lens is, this one you have to be a little bit more careful about. Sometimes there's third-party lenses that people want to charge a lot for, and based on my years of selling things online, something like this Vivitar 28-28 FD lens. Works perfectly fine. I've shot with it, had no issues. It's not the best lens you'll ever use, but it is a lens that you can use. And if you have a Canon AE1 or something of that sort, slapping this on will be perfectly fine. Of course, there is the Canon FD 28 2.8, and there's obviously some size differences, but for the most part, this one will work just as well as this one will. This one just doesn't have the Canon name. Ostensibly the same thing. For all intents and purposes, you probably won't notice a difference. And if you're trying to make it affordable, this is your best bet. I would say get a lens that you like using, that you feel comfortable using. Third-party lenses are good. Sometimes you can get a kit lens with your camera. That will be more affordable because you can just get it all in one lump sum. Developing costs. We have two options. We have the self, and then we have the lab. This is going to be, put a little star around that. This will be the cheapest. This is going to be the easiest. Now the trade-off is this will cost more, but it's very easy to use. If you are just starting off on this whole process, this would be my recommendation, just to kind of get the workflow done of shooting film, getting it developed, seeing the results. That way you can make a more informed decision. Is this something I really want to do? Because it might not. You might shoot film and just like, the results aren't really what I'm looking for. They're not what I'm hoping for. I don't like the experience. I would say start here. If you like it, then start looking into scanning it yourself and adding that into your budget plan. You can do local or you can do a mail-in. Avoid Walmarts, Walgreens, CVS pharmacies. I don't really know anyone who uses those anymore, but from what I've heard, they cost a lot and the results are not very good, or they don't even offer that as an option anymore. So local, we kind of go back to the same discussion here. It's going to cost maybe a little bit more at some places, but you do get that sense of community. You get to talk to someone, they might have recommendations. So this is always a fun option depending on where you live. Mail-in, there's options like Darkroom, Reform Film Lab, other places that do mail-ins. The results are going to be consistent, they're going to be timely, and they're going to be affordable. Darkroom, I think, is $13 a roll. Doing the lab, don't pay for the high-res scans just yet. This will be more than enough if you're just posting on Instagram, sending photos to your friends, whatever. This is going to make the most sense. If you do high-res scans, that's more for if you want to do bigger prints. My recommendation, if you want to do bigger prints, just do the standard scans. When you're looking through your images, say, oh, I like this photo, I like that photo. Take that photo, take it back into the lab, send it back in, whatever, and say, I want this one as a high-res scan. It won't cost as much money. Self-developing. It's going to be kind of a more fixed cost once you get the supplies. It's been a while since I've done this, so I apologize if I'm incorrect, but the chemicals will show how much you can develop. The costs are usually pretty reasonable. The supplies are a fixed cost. Chemicals you'll need to re-up on, and so on and so forth. All of this will ultimately cost a lot less than this in the long term. However, this is going to be a lot more of a front cost. You have to spend a lot, and then over time it's going to pay off. You do the self-developing, it's going to take a bit more time, it's going to take some more expertise. You do get more control over it, and you experience the totality of film photography, which is probably good to have that experience. It's good to learn all of those things. But again, there are trade-offs as with anything. The big trade-off, in my opinion, is the scanning, whatever you want to call it. Flatbed, I'll just put DSLR, but DSLR mirrorless scanning. With the flatbed scanners, you're looking at like the Epson V600. Those are going to be, again, very expensive, but if you figure out how to use them, you won't have to do this whole thing. They take a very long time, they are very expensive, and everyone I know who's used them has had issues with it or doesn't want to do it anymore, whatever. So I really shy away from recommending flatbed scanning to people. Instead, I think DSLR or mirrorless scanning is the way to go. There's a whole lot of videos out there online for doing a setup on that. Again, it is going to cost a lot of money because you have to buy a camera, digital camera, macro extension or macro lens, light table, something to hold the negatives, all of these things. There's affordable ways to go about it, but again, it is an upfront cost that you have to be concerned with. If you want to do this all yourself, this is probably going to be the best option. Start off here. Just send it off to a lab, again, see if you like doing it, and then start investing towards this. making sure that fits into your budget. The totality of guide here: get a camera either from a family friend or neighbor or something like that, buy one from KEH online or go to a local shop. Get your film from an online source or from that same local shop, so long as the price is right. Jot out a list of any of these films that you want. Make sure that it all fits within your budget. These options, I think Kentmere is probably one of the higher quality ones. Move on to the lens, which you probably hopefully got with the camera. If not, find a lens online from KEH, MPB, any of that. Depending on the lens, depending on the focal length, it's usually going to be about $50 up to $100. There are nicer lenses out there as well, but just for starting out, I would say 50 to 100 is perfectly fine. Developing. Send it off to a lab first, get the standard scans, see if you like it. Is this something I want to keep doing? Is this not something I want to keep doing? Figure that out while you store your negatives. Store your negatives. And then after your negatives are stored, start the process again, buy some more film. Maybe this time you want to try some color film. That's a good option there. That is my guide to affordable photography. This is mainly for beginners just getting into it. There are better options out there, such as getting a 100-foot spool of black and white film, a bulk film loader, and loading up your own canisters, developing at home. You can end up shooting that whole thing of film and it's going to equate to like $4 a roll or something insane like that. Not everyone's there. That's going to take a lot of time and expertise. So for just the beginner, this would be my recommendation here. The goal of getting yourself to the point where you can develop it yourself and scan with the DSLR setup or something approximating that. The most important thing is your budget. Don't get sucked into the mindset of I need to have the most expensive, the nicest thing ever. Get something that is affordable, that works for you, and just have fun with it. Just have fun. You don't have to have the nicest camera, the nicest lens, any of that to take a good photo. I shoot with really bad cameras a lot of the times. I've yet to take good photos, but I have taken photos. It does work. Budget, storage. Those are the two major takeaways, and I hope this helps. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below, please. I would love to hear what you have to say. If you have any recommendations, anything I missed on this list, feel free to leave those down below as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Check out my other guides. I go over all sorts of different stuff, so if you have any questions, check those out or just leave that comment down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. I appreciate it very much, and I will catch you on the next one.